What is up, gamers? I finished Metroid Prime 4 a little while ago, and because of all the support with the Metroid Prime lore video, I felt that I should probably talk about the game a little bit. My thoughts on Metroid Prime 4 are complicated. As weird as it is to say, the more that I think about the game, the less that I like it. It sounds like a meme, but I promise that's not my intention. On the surface, I really like the game. The combat is the best it's ever been in the Prime series, bosses were my favorite as well, and of course, the game is absolutely beautiful. The problem starts when I start thinking more in depth about Metroid as a genre, the lore of the series, and what I was looking forward to that I mentioned in the lore video itself. Before we start diving into the game, I need to talk about the development of it first. Metroid Prime 4 was announced on June 13th, 2017. The first Switch console came out only 3 months earlier on March 3rd, 2017. Metroid Prime 4 was originally scrapped and remade from scratch with a Nintendo announcement on January 25th, 2019. Finally, almost 7 years after that announcement, it released on December 4th, 2025. Announcing the game so early is probably the biggest mistake I think the Retro Studios did. I'd also bet money that they would agree on that as well. When Retro Studios released Metroid Prime 1 Remastered, it was released the same day as the Nintendo Direct that it was announced on, and they also mentioned that it would be available with physical copies later that month, which I'm assuming is the time it would take to start shipping out to retailers. The more that I played Prime 4, the more that I felt the hype created and the stress from making the game were getting to the developers. If you were to tell me that the development team were succumbing to alcoholism because of the mental toll that Metroid Prime 4 was giving them, and they just said, "F it, we need to release something just to save the mental health of our team and so we can start working on something new entirely," I would believe you without question. A lot of my issues with the game feel like they're a result of this. There's definitely some interesting and cool ideas in Prime 4, but most of them, if not all of them, seem half-baked. I don't want to flame the development team. I just want to give this context on the time frame the game went through, and hopefully my criticisms of the game are going to make more sense. At this point, I will be talking more about the game itself, and there will be heavy spoilers for Prime 4. If you're not interested in seeing any spoilers, this is probably going to be your off-ramp. And thank you for watching. It's time to get real nerdy in here, Sammy. Basically, I just want to shotgun a lot of thoughts about Prime 4's mechanics, but I kind of want to talk a little bit more in depth about the Galactic Federation, Sylux, and the ending of Prime 4 afterwards. Metroidvanias as a genre have a very simple but pretty intuitive design pattern. You're exploring a world or an area. You will not have access to certain areas because you don't have items to get through those areas, and once you receive these new items, you can now progress and explore more of the game. Technically, in Prime 4, you are exploring whenever you enter a new area, but if you look at the maps of each different zone, they're extremely linear. Most rooms have one other entrance than the one that you came from, and if there is any other room, it's usually for a save point, or it's one or two rooms removed from the main path to unlock something, which you will then backtrack in to the main path and then continue your journey. The layout of the game feels much more like a Zelda game, where the desert feels like Hyrule Field or the Great Sea, and each zone feels kind of like a dungeon. I think the game could be fun this way, but they still added a lot of backtracking like it was a Metroid game, and part of what makes backtracking fun in a Metroidvania is that whenever you get an upgrade, you can go and explore different areas. However, in this game, whenever you go to Miles to get your shot upgraded, it just feels incredibly dull when you're walking through the linear pathways. A huge majority of upgrades in this game are psychic versions of abilities Samus previously had, which I wish that there was just a lot more abilities, to be completely honest. The more frustrating part about these psychic upgrades are that you're only able to use them in spots that the developers intended for you to use. So it feels like another freedom from the Metroidvania genre that just got cut from this game. I did not like anything about the desert. I knew you had to collect a lot of green crystals before I was playing because I was a little slow playing the game, and I even went out of my way collecting the crystals while I was going from area to area, and I was less than halfway completed when I was at the end. There's no music in the desert, which if you're looking at it like a Zelda game, I'm pretty sure most people can see a Zelda game and be able to hear the song that's playing in that overworld theme. And it's weird that it's like doubling down on the annoyance of collecting the green crystals. The Viola bike is strange because there is an entire zone dedicated to making your own bike. You get a suit upgrade that is literally your registered ID to ride the bike, but then there's nothing really else on the planet that really uses that bike. There's one racetrack in Volt Forge, but there are no racetracks in the desert. You need an upgrade to go over lava. It just feels pretty strange in general. For as much emphasis that Lamorn put on the bike in Volt Forge, it's strange to me that they didn't terraform anything else on the planet to complement the bike. at all. I love the idea of Lamorn. Every Prime game has dealt with extinct races, and it's about time we find events that play out during the game. The Lamorn, I think, would work out perfectly in this situation. They ask us to do stuff for them, we go and grab a relic and key, come back, and they turn into grievers as they're exposed to the kryptonite green light stuff. And I think it could turn up the tension in the game a ton, but since they're already extinct, it's kind of hard to care about them. Also, don't really understand the green rain. It provides the memory fruit which the Lamorn asks Samus to plant, but the green rain turns creatures hostile and doesn't seem like it really provides any benefit to anyone outside of Samus. But as far as I know, I couldn't find anything of what it actually is, and I don't know why the green crystals only show up in the desert if the giant plant in Green Fury is the one that drops all of the green rain. But there's not really any crystals in Green Fury. It's a little strange. Miles McKenzie, primarily responsible for golem maintenance at the UTO Research Center. This guy was responsible for Federation Force? Oh no, dude. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit more about the Galactic Federation, some stuff with Metroid as a whole. I don't really know why the Galactic Federation kind of gets constantly shoved in our face to try to make us care about them. Samus operates on the Extraordinary, and she routinely fights beasts 50 times her size. However, the Galactic Federation Marines, they function as normal humans doing normal things. The difference in relative power between the two is so vast that it's just too hard for me to take them seriously. I think it's fine to have people cheer and root for Samus and be fanboys or fangirls of Samus. The problem I have with Prime 4 is that it feels like we're NBA players who are forced to split ball time with a bunch of Little League players, and then the lesson at the end of the game is you can't win all alone. You need the help of everyone to overcome obstacles. For example, in every other Metroid game, we get upgrades from alien sources that work with Samus's suit. For some reason, Samus's suit just kind of works with every piece of alien technology. However, the Lamorn, who have claimed that Samus is their chosen one who is destined to save them, needs to get their artifacts decrypted and adapted by a level 4 Federation engineer. Why? I don't understand. In Flarepool, we need the help of the Federation Marines to open up two-person doors. I don't know why the Lamorn would make something as a two-person requirement to open up a door. I don't know. It's never really explained as far as I can tell. The best I have is that it is a way to give the Federation Marines some way to have more ball time. Because I think it is simply too hard to make normal humans in the Metroid universe become memorable characters, what they need is someone who is as extraordinary as Samus, someone who is competent in their abilities and actively wants to hunt Samus down as she is a threat to what they want to accomplish. And here is Sylux. Like I said with the development time frame, I think poor Sylux is also a victim of overpromises. He was teased a few times leading up to Prime 4, and it was announced that he was the bad guy for the game very early on. However, the execution of him feels like Dark Samus all over again to me. The only difference is that Sylux is allegedly a human and can talk. He's not an ethereal beast like Metroid Prime is. When we see Sylux in game, we either battle him and find out that he's translocated himself onto a robot, or he's acting like a Saturday morning cartoon villain who is going to slightly hinder us on our adventure. It would have been much better for some of the dialogue and the backstory from the Federation Marines to go into Sylux. Since we all teleported onto planet Viros and no one knows anything about the planet, I think the best way they could have used him is to have him actively figuring out the secrets of the planet, and when we find him, instead of it being some random robot of Sylux, he could be amassing materials and knowledge from the planet and using that to wipe us out while we're trying to help the Galactic Federation Marines. To bring this back to my earlier point, if he knew about the Green Rain and we were working with the Lamorn on getting things for them, we could come back and we can see him and he can actively sabotage them to stop them from helping us. I think there's a lot of stuff that they could have done to show that he will actively use the planet to his advantage and actually understand what's going on in the planet when we don't know anything about what's happening. I really wanted to know more backstory for Sylux, and we technically got some, but I really want to know what drives him as a character. I want to know if he's more of a cunning schemer or if he's a powerhouse that leaves no one in his wake. What makes Sylux a threat? Why does he have technology for hatching Metroids? I do really like Sylux as a character, and as I said, we need some more extraordinary beings in the series, but we didn't really get any idea of who he is outside of the boss fights. I actually thought the final battle was my favorite part in the entire game, and I think that this is something that proves that they know how to cook with Sylux a little bit. I thought the fact that he can steal your energy tank and absorb it to heal was awesome, and I know they can make him a cool character, but I keep getting the feeling that he was just being stuck in random places because it was promised that he was the main villain, and I feel like he was not capitalized with. If there is a Metroid Prime 5, in my opinion, Sylux should 100% be the main villain, but we also need a reason to stop him. Take us to his homeworld or something where he's harnessing the power of Giga Lightning, plotting to destroy the Galactic Federation, and we have to infiltrate his home planet with him and the space pirates trying to stop us at every turn. I think that would work a lot better than both of us just appearing on a random planet and just bumming around until we try and leave, and then he stops us, or tries to stop us. I did not like the ending for Metroid Prime 4. It felt incredibly disheveled from who Samus is. For context, the game tells us that Metroid Prime 4 takes place in 20X9, which would put it after Super Metroid, unless they do that thing where X can be any number, but it's probably just after Super Metroid. The ending of the game has the Little League Federation Marines hold off against the NBA player Sylux and are begging Samus to leave them behind so she can escape on the teleporter because it's going to go out of commission. What? Why is it giving me a choice? We gotta help our buds, dude. Alright, well, see you guys. And then she just does? What makes it weird is that this is a forced choice. You're given the option to press it or not, and if you don't press it, you die and you have to fight Sylux again. Numbers in the title be damned, if Prime 4 was near the beginning of the Metroid timeline, I actually think that this would be an awesome scenario. It could be a traumatic experience for Samus and instills why she has a strong sense of justice and helps those in need because of the loss of these Federation Marines. However, this is Super Metroid. She is extremely decorated at this point. She has helped the Galactic Federation a dozen or more times, helped the Luminoth race save their world, and she even goes out of her way to help animals escape in Super Metroid while the planet was actively counting down to explode. In Metroid Fusion, Samus mentions that these animals who helped her were the ones that were originally on Zebes, so saving the animals is canon in that game. So I can't fathom why Samus would ever ditch these Marines. Viros as a planet isn't exploding. It's not dying out. The only problem is that the teleporter is losing power, and there's the immediate threat of Sylux that's there. They have a level 4 Federation engineer who is making a lot of progress on Lamorn technology as well, so it makes no sense to me why Samus would actually abandon them to their doom and flee from Sylux even though she's beaten him 3 times right before this. It's just crazy. I don't have any words for it. It feels so out of place because the stakes of the final battle are probably the lowest in the entire series, yet this is the only battle that Samus runs away from. And those are my thoughts on Metroid Prime 4. I do really want to like the game, and I think there are some ideas that, if they were fully realized, they could have been awesome. The very base part of the game is fun enough with the combat and graphics, but having so many pieces not expanded on makes the game fall short in my opinion. To go back to what I said earlier, the more that I think about the game, the less that I enjoy it. I do respect the developers for trying to keep the promises they made and making the best of what they had, despite the scrapping. I do wonder how much of the game would have changed if they didn't have the social pressure due to announcing the game so early. But I am glad that they released Prime 4 Beyond. I think that there's a lot of stuff that they could learn from, and if they never released it or canceled it, I think we would never see a Metroid Prime game again. I don't really know if Retro Studios will make a Prime 5. It's pretty safe to assume that whatever game they make next will be on the Switch 2 hardware, so there definitely could be some renewed motivation to work on another Metroid Prime entry. If you want my opinion, I think Retro will stay away from Metroid for a bit, and I think that they're going to keep their video game cards close to their chest, so it might be a while before we hear from them. I think the next time that they do show us something, it's going to be extremely close to a finished product, and I would assume that the release date is going to be a couple months out. But I do just want to say, thanks for watching, I super appreciate it. I do stream on Twitch a few times a week, and you can also catch me on Bluesky, both under the name Tippick. I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, or night. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next mission.